Let's move on and also welcome Hemang Jani on the show. Hemang, morning. Thanks for your time. Let's start our chat with this Asian Paint. Well, ancient paint will also not be a wrong word because it's been around for a long time. But it appears that the profitability, lure for this sector is now attracting so many new players. Diwali's, I heard that Grasim would launch their paint division or start their factory around this time. By next Diwali, perhaps you may start seeing new products out in the market. Indigo is also now coming very aggressive. So, is there a case for material derating in Asian Paints? That's my question. Or no, their strength cannot be challenged in a hurry.
Good morning, Ajay. I think this is the point that we've been debating for a while because ever since few new players came into the industry, with Grasim in particular, making a strong investment, and the presence is now felt is being felt across. The fact is that the segment itself is growing. If you see, ever since we've seen this new players coming in and all, the volume growth for Asian Paint has not materially got affected. So I think given the size of the opportunity, the way the real estate market is booming, I don't see much of an issue in terms of earning. Yes, we will have to watch and see in terms of market share, how the situation evolves and how much of the market share that Asian Paints is enjoying, they are able to protect. But this is the trend that we've seen across industries. The leader, it's not as if that the disruption creates such a big impact that the earnings is badly affected. So it remains to be a great story, particularly when the crude prices are going down. If you find, one bad day, it would be a good idea to buy into Asian Paints.
View on the paint sector as a whole and Asian paint specifically. But Hemang, a lot of IPOs are also hitting the street, right? Next week is going to be busy with Tata Tech, IREDA, and today, of course, we got the pricing for Flair writing pens as well. What is your assessment of some of these?
Yes, when the markets are booming and retail investors want to kind of participate in that journey, that's a good thing. But I have a very specific view. I think IREDA, looks like a good bet for people, who want to participate. And I think from a sector perspective, from growth perspective, I think that looks quite compelling. But Tata Technology, I am baffled. I really try to figure out what exactly this company is trying to do and what is the purpose of doing the IPO. No doubt that, it's a Tata brand and, people have a lot of respect and comfort. But if you look at the numbers and you do a deep dive, I find it very hard to believe what exactly is the reason for which the company has launched this IPO.
It was about IREDA, which Hemang also likes. But Hemang, we should also, in the same breath, talk about Tata Tech, which is kind of, even in the unlisted market, saw a lot of action. Now that the IPO is launched, it has done what it has to Tata Motors, almost 700 ahead of that. And have you analyzed that one?
Are you referring to Tata Technologies IPO, Ajay?
Yeah, Tata Technologies.
Yeah, so exactly that was a point that I was trying to make. While IREDA appears quite compelling, and the interest, as you also pointed out, and this space in which it's operating in, a very nimble kind of a small company where people would want to have a pie of it. And if you look at the anchor book, I think people haven't got as much as they wanted. So there is a lot of interest. But Tata Technology, while I was trying to fathom exactly what the company is doing, what is the purpose of doing IPO, there is a complete disconnect. So while Tata name and the technology name would attract some retail investors, when you do a deep dive into the numbers, the kind of spaces that they are operating in, it's looking like that, there is absolutely no real business model. So I am real surprised as to what is the reason for the company to launch the IPO. I would surely not go ahead and go for this kind of a thing.
Interesting view actually, Hemang, because the rest of us were thinking that it's a good business model, it's niche ER&D, the likes of KPIT, Cyient, they have been re-rated on account of the kind of verticals they address to aerospace as well as aviation, and the spend in these two industries hasn't really abated while the rest of the IT has actually been languishing. Could you explain a bit more in terms of why do you think there is no business model at all, a business case for Tata Tech?
Anisha, while we have multiple companies into, let's say, mobility space, ER&D space, etc. So on the face of it, all of that is looking quite good. But what I find difficult to understand is that, this company is operating for a while, and if they are operating in these spaces, why the numbers are not reflecting that? And was the only purpose of doing the IPO to kind of, give some sort of a, monetary benefit to Tata Motors? So my point is that on the face of it, things are looking great, but in terms of numbers, in terms of, the valuations, I don't see any great merit in investing into it.
Interesting, a clear, vehement avoid coming in on Tata Technologies, at least from Hemang.
Hemang, I want to talk to you about TVS Motors in particular. The stock is, not cheap by any, valuation metric, but the stock is continuously doing very well from 1450 odd, knocking at 1700 now. People are taking note of how, that too ahead of the Ola Electric IPO, that even TVS Motor houses a very large EV play in it, which is, if not completely, at least 65-70% of Ola Electric operations and numbers. Could there be a case of value unlocking in TVS in run up to Ola Electric IPO, the way their numbers are actually also pouring out from TVS?
We see across two-wheeler is the revival in the growth versus the passenger vehicles or the CV. People had this thought that maybe the two-wheeler segment is not growing and the rural side there is a issue, etc. But the recent numbers, the festive season sales clearly suggest that the two-wheeler growth is back. The new launches that in the premium category have received a good response. And TVS, earlier the risk was that 40% of their portfolio has the risk of disruption because of the EV, and it was not very clear as to how exactly the company is going to deal with it. But the way the company has responded to that and come out with various products, I think, it looks like a very compelling pattern, which is why TVS has been the best performing stock in the last about 12 months. So I think Ola IPO, maybe there could be some excitement around it, but the core story is still looking good. But in terms of valuations, I still prefer a Bajaj or a Hero at this point compared to a TVS because purely it has run up so much.
Although there's news out on TVS, they're going to be partnering with Emil Frey as well for import and distribution in some of the key European markets. Remember, TVS has been one of the rank outperformers within the two-wheeler space. Let's see how much more headroom it has in store for us. But Hemang, just talking about the price action yesterday or day before actually, when Bajaj Finance, the dip into the stock completely got bought into after the RBI said that, stop lending via e-com and Insta EMI cards with immediate effect, although it is for just a 60-day period of time. But would you say any such decline in the rest of the NBFC pack, or for instance what happened in the private banking names yesterday, should also be bought into, much like the case was with Bajaj Finance?
I think, Aisha, a lot of things are happening. So Bajaj Finance was yesterday, and that was more like an operational issue. So I don't think market was too perturbed by that. So that surely, was not that negative. But I think this RBI's, recent notification about increasing the risk weight, I think that could have some sentimental impact on the categories, like personal loans, unsecured loans, because you will see a little bit of increase in the cost of funding, and that was warranted also. But I think when I look at on an overall basis, having seen the banking sector or bank Nifty underperform the Nifty in the last 2 or 3 months, I think there may be a little bit of knee-jerk reaction. I don't think at a capital adequacy level or at an earnings level, there is going to be a significant impact. So I would surely look to buy into some of the banks, private banks, or maybe an SBI at this point of time. And maybe some of the companies like SBI card, etc., could have a larger, price impact because of the development yesterday.